With Ilia Topuria moving up to 155 pounds, I think it's time to figure out how Ilia Topuria would fare against the legends of the 155 pound and 145 pound division, how he would match up against these guys past or present. I think there's some huge matchups that people talk about. And let's start with the first one. It's a huge matchup that I see all over the internet, people talking about who would win. Prime McGregor versus Ilia Topuria. So let's just say it's like a prime 145 pound McGregor versus a prime 145 pound Ilia Topuria. How would this fight go? I'm going to put Conor McGregor in the A tier. And the only reason I'm not putting him in the S tier, because I think on the striking, this fight is as close as it gets. I think Ilia Topuria has the wrestling advantage. I think he has the grappling advantage over Conor McGregor. And I think that having that option against a guy like Conor McGregor, who is a dangerous threat on the feet, I think is really good for Ilia Topuria. And that's why I don't have McGregor in the S tier, because Ilia Topuria can fall back on the grappling if he needs to. I don't know if he could hold McGregor down, but let's just break up the matchup on the feet, because this is where it's interesting. Ilia Topuria has the best boxing of all time in the UFC. That's my opinion. I think it's most people's opinion that we've never seen a boxer like Topuria. We've never seen as clean combinations. We've never seen the skill. But Conor McGregor is one of the most dangerous strikers we've ever seen, especially at 145. And this guy was putting out people with one punch at 145. And I think the range of Conor McGregor for Ilia Topuria at featherweight would be an issue. I think that would be the trouble of Ilia Topuria, because Conor McGregor's boxing, I think he could keep up with Topuria. I think he could. And the fact that Conor McGregor mixes in the kicks, that unpredictability, I think would be an issue for Ilia Topuria, because we've seen Ilia Topuria, he got dropped by a head kick. Let's not forget, by a lanky guy. And Conor McGregor, he throws head kicks. He throws spinning wheel kicks. I think Conor McGregor might actually win on the feet. I think he would have the advantage, right? Because this is the 145 pound McGregor, the karate stance, floating in and out, landing combinations, landing probably tons of low kicks to Ilia Topuria with that heavy boxing stance. I think Conor McGregor might actually get him on the feet. You know, I mean, Ilia Topuria is no guy to fuck around with on the feet, but prime Conor McGregor, this guy was a problem. The only thing I would say, though, is the conditioning of Conor McGregor. I don't know. Say this is a 5-round fight, a championship fight at 145. If Conor McGregor can't get a finish, or Ilia Topuria doesn't finish him, what's Conor McGregor like in the 3rd round against Topuria, or the 4th round? We've seen Topuria go 5 rounds of just pure striking, pure boxing with Josh Emmett. We know he has the cardio to go that. We have not seen Conor McGregor go 5 rounds, especially at featherweight, right? So I'm putting him in an A tier. I think the fact that Conor McGregor's conditioning is not great, he's not known for his conditioning, and the fact that, you know, Ilia Topuria has the grappling if things go south, I'm going to put him in the A tier. But this is like one of the biggest matchups, honestly, like in history. If I had to like make some dream matchups, you know, there's like George St. Pierre versus Silva, Khabib versus George St. Pierre. There's fights like that. I think this is up here with like, you know, dream all-time fights. I think it would be a banger matchup. Khabib Nurmagomedov's next. I'm putting Khabib in S tier. Listen, I think he's like the hardest matchup for Topuria. Here's the thing though, Khabib's striking is obviously not the same level as Topuria. That's where Topuria would win. We've seen Topuria wrestle. We've seen him be able to take down people. We've seen him able to defend takedowns. People point at like the Bryce Mitchell takedown, or Bryce Mitchell took him down. And you would have to think that Khabib could land a takedown against Ilia Topuria, right? But Ilia Topuria has the danger factor of the knockout power. Khabib's never faced a striker the level of Topuria. Maybe Dustin Poirier, you can say, but not as dangerous as Topuria. Topuria has crazy knockout power. I'm putting him in S tier though, because I think he just takes down Topuria. I think he's too big for Topuria, and he probably just gets a submission. I think he's the best grappler in 155 in history. This would be a really tough matchup. Islam Makhachev's next. I'm going to put him in the S tier. I'm still predicting Ilia Topuria to beat Islam Makhachev, by the way. If this fight happens, if Topuria fights Islam Makhachev, I'm going to go with Ilia Topuria. I just think that he's able to land the knockout shot against Islam Makhachev. I think he'll be able to find it. In terms of the grappling, we've seen Islam Makhachev against other fighters, and they were able to survive on the ground with Islam Makhachev. This isn't like Khabib. No one's ever survived on the ground with Khabib for the most part. We've seen Islam Makhachev get his takedowns defended. We've seen him get stuffed. We've seen people survive with their back taken by Islam Makhachev. We've seen Volkanovski. He survived with his back against Islam Makhachev. I think Topuria has the skill to survive against Islam Makhachev on the ground. People act like Ilia Topuria is just this striker with no takedown defense. They act like this guy's like a Leon Edwards. Ilia Topuria started off grappling. He's been doing jiu-jitsu since he was a kid. Like, this guy is a grappler first, right? I don't know if he's probably not, he's not the same level as Islam Makhachev, but I think he can defend himself. If Volkanovski can defend himself on the ground against Islam Makhachev, if guys like Dustin Poirier can defend takedowns, I think Ilia Topuria can do it, right? They say Ilia Topuria is too small for Islam Makhachev. I don't think so at all. Like, Volkanovski, was he too small for Islam Makhachev? I don't think so. I think he made the adjustment. He got up to 155. He was filled out. You know, I'm talking about the first fight, by the way, Volkanovski. He looks strong. He looked really strong. I think Ilia Topuria would be strong against Islam Makhachev too. I still have Islam Makhachev in S tier though, just because of the threat of the takedown, how well-rounded Islam Makhachev is. I think it would be a harder fight for Ilia Topuria than the Conor McGregor, prime Conor McGregor. I really think so, because Islam Makhachev's bigger. He's well-rounded to the point where Ilia Topuria can't really, you know, rely on one thing to win him this fight. He can't just take Islam Makhachev down if things go bad like he can Conor McGregor. He can't do that. So I have Islam Makhachev in the S tier. Charles Oliveira's next. This is the fight that I think is going to happen. At first I thought it was Ilia Topuria versus Makhachev. I thought they were just going to book that straight away. I don't think Islam Makhachev wants that fight. I think they turned it down. And they're going to do Oliveira versus Ilia Topuria. And I think this is a good fight. I think out of any contender, it should be Oliveira versus Ilia Topuria. I think this is the best fight you can do in terms of just like matchup. This is like the best matchup, the most fun matchup. And it's also one of the like best contenders in lightweight. I'm going to put Charles Oliveira in a B tier, and I'm predicting Ilia Topuria to knock out Charles Oliveira when this fight happens. I think it probably happens International Fight Week. Here's the thing, dude. This is what I always think about when I try to predict this fight. I just think about Charles Oliveira getting rocked by Chandler in both of their fights. And I think, what happens if Ilia Topuria lands on Charles Oliveira, right? Charles Oliveira gets rocked in practically every fight. What happens when Ilia Topuria lands on Charles Oliveira? Because he's going to land on Charles Oliveira. Like, there's no debate that he's not. I don't think Charles is going to be able to take a punch from Topuria, especially a Topuria that's moving up to 55. Like, this dude rocked Max Holloway down at 45. What happens when he goes up to 55 and he actually well adjusts himself to the weight class? I think we might see Charles Oliveira get flatline knocked out, and that's going to be insane. But I don't see Charles Oliveira really offering anything that is a huge threat to Topuria. Like, I don't think Topuria is going to try to take down Oliveira. So I don't see like a guillotine submission by Charles Oliveira or anything like that. I think Charles might try to clinch with Topuria and push him up against the fence in the beginning or something like that. Maybe he just tries to strike with him, but I don't see a world where Charles Oliveira wins this. So I'm putting him in a B tier. Like, I still think he has threats. Like, if this goes to the ground, I think Charles Oliveira has submission threats against Ilia Topuria, but we've seen submission threats against Ilia Topuria. We've seen tons of submission threats in Ilia Topuria's debut on short notice against Yusuf Zalal, right? We've seen Ilia Topuria chain submissions together against Yusuf Zalal on the ground. This guy's jiu-jitsu is super high level. I think he could keep up with Charles Oliveira, but I'm excited to see how this fight goes, because I think Charles Oliveira is going to push the pace. I don't think he's going to back up from Topuria. I don't think he's scared of Topuria. I think he's going to try to walk Topuria down. And we know Topuria does his best work when he's pushing you up against the fence and he's landing shots against you up against the fence. So we'll see what happens in this fight. I think this is going to be a banger. I'm excited for this. This is the fight that I think happens. I think this is next, and I'm excited for it. I think Topuria wins though. Jose Aldo's next. We're talking about a prime Jose Aldo here, okay? 145-pound champion. I think this fight is kind of hard for Ilia Topuria. I think this matchup is a lot more difficult for Ilia Topuria than, you know, it would be for like Max Holloway when they fought. Max Holloway versus Jose Aldo. The low kick of Jose Aldo is the thing that's going to be the issue. That's why I say that, because, you know, Topuria has that boxing heavy style. You know, he gets hit with the low kick pretty often. And I think Jose Aldo, if he came out there with a good game plan, could chew up the leg of Topuria. The only issue I see is I think Topuria outboxes Jose Aldo. If Max Holloway outboxes Jose Aldo, what the fuck is Topuria gonna do? I think he's gonna sleep Jose Aldo. I'm gonna put Jose Aldo in an A tier. You know, no, I'm gonna put him in a B tier. Jose Aldo's good. He's a legend, but I mean, the game's evolving. You guys got to remember, like, the last time I did this with Alex Pereira facing legends, I mean, the comments were just horrible. Like, you guys have to understand, the game is evolving. These fighters of the past, yeah, they're legends, but the new fighters are just better. They just are, right? Just because Jose Aldo's in a B tier, you know, doesn't mean he's not a legend. It just means the game's evolving, and Ilia Topuria is one of the best fighters in the UFC right now. And I don't think it's crazy to put Jose Aldo in the B tier. I mean, like, Jose Aldo's lost in his prime against Max Holloway. He's lost in his prime against, I mean, he was basically in his prime when he lost against Volk. So I have Jose Aldo in the B tier. I think the low kick of Jose Aldo would be the biggest threat to Ilia Topuria, but in terms of boxing and other stuff like that, you know, the takedown defense of Aldo's great too. Maybe Ilia Topuria can't get a takedown, but I think he can get it done on the feet with the boxing. And also, Jose Aldo's pretty small. Like, I know Ilia Topuria is small too, but it's not like Jose Aldo's going to have like a size advantage or a length advantage like Conor McGregor did or would. Dustin Poirier's next. Now, Dustin Poirier, this is the fight. Like, this is my favorite fight for Ilia Topuria. Like, if I had to put together a fight just for entertainment value, I don't think it's the best fight you can make, but I would be the most excited to see Poirier versus Topuria. I think this matchup is sick. The boxing of Poirier, I think Poirier is the best striker at lightweight. I think he's the best boxer at lightweight. I think he's one of the best boxers in the UFC. Seeing Topuria versus Poirier, this is like a dream matchup. I don't think it ever happens. I think Poirier probably fights like Holloway in his last fight. This fight would be sick. I'm going to put Dustin Poirier. I'm going to put him in the high B tier. I think he has a better chance than Charles Oliveira. I don't think Topuria is going to try to take down Poirier. I think it's going to be a striking battle. I think it's going to be a boxing battle. That's why I think this fight would be so good. But I just don't think Poirier's as good of a boxer as Topuria. And I think the things that, you know, would work against Topuria, like a stiff jab, Poirier doesn't really have that. Like, he has a good jab, but it's not like some world-renowned jab. Like, I think Max Holloway probably has a better jab, right? And that didn't even work against Topuria. I don't think Poirier would just has the level of boxing that could beat Ilia Topuria. You know, Poirier gets hit a lot. I don't know if he could take the punch of Topuria. I think I trust Topuria more to take a punch from Dustin Poirier than I do Poirier to take a punch from Ilia Topuria. But I still think the fight's really close because Dustin Poirier, I think, is the best boxer. I think this fight is one of the best ones you can make at lightweight in terms of just, I mean, I think the fans, it would be the most hype for the fans. I know there's Charles Oliveira, those fights too. There's Islam Makhachev, that would be more hype just because Islam Makhachev is, you know, the best in the world. But I'm going to put Dustin in the high B tier. I think he has a pretty decent chance. Frankie Edgar, sorry, but I'm going to put him in the D tier. People are going to get mad at this. Oh, you forget how good Frankie Edgar was. Yeah, he was really good for his time, right? I'm going to say this again, like I try to say every single time. Fighters of the past are just not as good usually as fighters of present, unless you're talking about like transcendent talent like George St. Pierre or John Jones, guys that can fight in multiple time periods and still keep up. I don't think Frankie Edgar was like a guy like George St. Pierre who could basically beat everyone in his weight class now. I don't think Frankie Edgar's that guy. And I think Topuria, dude, Frankie Edgar's not big at all. I think he's probably smaller than Topuria. I think Topuria knocks this guy out, and I think it's probably a pretty quick knockout. I'm going to reiterate this. Topuria knocked out Volk in the second round, right? What does he do to Frankie Edgar? Because Volk's a lot better than Frankie Edgar. We can all agree with that. Frankie Edgar's in the D tier. I think he's too small. Frankie Edgar had good boxing back then. He did. He had really good boxing in his prime, but, you know, he had the wrestling too. I just don't think it's enough for Ilia Topuria. I think the power and the striking of Ilia Topuria is too much. Max Holloway's next. Max Holloway's another B tier. I mean, we saw this fight happen, so we know kind of how it goes, but Max Holloway was doing good. He was landing damage on Topuria, but there was too much danger from Topuria for Max Holloway to implement his pace. And that's how Max Holloway wins fights. He wins by just outpacing you and by outlanding you. And it's hard for like Max Holloway to get started against a guy like Ilia Topuria just because the power, and you can't just sit in your face and throw punches, you know, throw jab, double jab, you know, double jab cross in your face like he does these other fighters, because Topuria has a missile coming back that can knock you out. And that's what happened in their fight. I think if they rematch, it would be kind of similar. I don't know. Like, I don't think Max Holloway gets knocked out early. I think it would be another like third round, fourth round knockout, but that's the way I see it going. I see Ilia Topuria winning 9 times out of 10. Tony Ferguson, I'm putting in the D tier. I know prime Tony was a problem, but let's be real. Tony Ferguson's best competition was maybe Anthony Pettis or Kevin Lee, Cowboy Cerrone. Like, no offense, but that's just nowhere near the level of Topuria or what Topuria faced. I think Topuria smokes fucking Tony Ferguson. I don't think this fight's close. You know, Tony Ferguson's biggest threat would maybe be the jiu-jitsu or like landing an elbow against Ilia Topuria, maybe landing a stiff jab. But come on, the striking of Tony Ferguson's nowhere near. And we're talking about prime Tony Ferguson too. I'm not talking about the washed Tony Ferguson. Prime Tony Ferguson, let's say the Tony Ferguson that, you know, 2019 Tony Ferguson, I don't think he stands a chance against Topuria. I don't. Volkanovski, I'm going to put in the low B tier again. I won't put in the low B tier. I'll put him in the mid B tier. Same thing with Max Holloway. It's like, I think he loses 9 times out of 10 against Ilia Topuria. Right, Volkanovski's a great fighter, but it's just the way the matchup goes. Volkanovski, it's a hard fight for him to win. Lastly, we have BJ Penn. I'm going to put him in the C tier. BJ Penn was good, okay? He was good for his time. He would still be good now. He would still maybe be ranked at lightweight now, okay? And he has the size. You know, he kind of has the size. I think maybe he could give a couple of problems to Ilia Topuria, but I don't think it's that competitive as some of these guys, you know, up here like prime Conor McGregor, prime Khabib, or Islam Makhachev. I don't think it's like that. Let me know what you guys think about this list, though. Are there any legends do you think I ranked too low? Who do you think beats Ilia Topuria? Who do you think Ilia Topuria beats? Do you think any of these guys here beat Ilia Topuria? Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments below.